Alrighty, CNT125, Subnet Application Lab. We did our planning in the first one. We planned out our networks. We did our map. The second podcast, we configured the routers. We configured the name and the IP address and the routing protocol on both routers. So now we're looking at, let's get our clients connected in and working in the network. So I'll come over here to PC1, open up its configuration, IP configuration, and I'm getting my IP addresses from my map. So I'm going to look at, I'll scroll up here a little bit, I'm going to look at these IP addresses right here and configure these in. Now, make sure the IP addresses are right, subnet masks are right, and make sure the gateways are right. If you don't have those plugged in correctly, you're going to have connectivity issues with these clients. So make sure you take your time and make sure they're plugged in correctly. So 172.16.32 network.10 for this client. It defaults to a class B, but we have subnetted, so we need to plug in, 224. You see the easy typo that could have been made there. Gateway 172.16.32.1. Double check all that, make sure it's correct. I would go right here to the command prompt and do an IP config and check its IP setting. Excellent. And while I'm at it, I think the next part of the lab, I tell you down here, once you check that, here we go, once you set your IP config, my next check is I really want to ping the gateway. So while I'm here, just to minimize the amount of steps I'm doing, I'm going to ping the 172.16.32.1, the gateway address, and I should get a response. If I do not, I'm immediately turning right around and checking my IP settings, make sure there's no typos, check my cables, that kind of thing. Laptop, right here, 172.16.32.11. Fix my subnet mask, 172.16.32.1. Okay, I'm going to close that, open a command prompt, IP config. Looking good, and I'm going to ping 172.16.32.1, the gateway, and I have a response. So these two are connected and working and talking in the network. I'm going to do the same thing on this side now. This side is 172.16. This is 96.10. 224. And I'm just double checking my map over there, make sure I had, that's what my plan was. So 216.96.1 is the gateway. Okay, go here, command prompt IP config, and I'm going to ping 172.16.96.1. I have the gateway address. Excellent. Over here on the laptop, 172.16.96.11, so I don't conflict the other PC, 224. 172.16.96.1. Close that, open command prompt, IP config, double check those settings, and then ping 172.16.96.1. And that has connectivity. Excellent. If by chance if any of these nodes don't have connectivity, go back, double check your IP settings, double check the cables are connected correctly, and look for those typos. That's usually what's causing it. All right, now that I have that, I want to check my connectivity across the network. So I'm now going to try to ping through my network to the other side. So I will try to ping across. Now I'm using PC1. I'm using this PC. So I'm going to try to ping over here to PC2 on the other side. And if you're not sure, hold your pointer over to get the address, 9610. Okay. So I'm going to ping 172.16.96.10. And I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. There we go. We got a ping across there. And I'm actually going to do a trace RST while I'm at it, 172.16.96.10. And I should see my router, the gateway, the other router's IP, and then that workstation. That's exactly what I should be seeing. And just for changing pace, I'll go to this laptop here, and I will do a ping back to the other side, in this case 172.16.32.11. I should get a ping, and I'll do a trace back on that one as well. Trace RT 172.16.32.11, and I should get a trace back, 96.64.32. Excellent. So now I have all that working. Again, if something does not work there, check your IP addresses, check for typos, check for cables. Okay? Those are usually the common things. All right, so now we want to look at, now we have our client communication going on, we want to look at the routing table. So we're going to go to the router, and I'll just pick the 2011, and we're going to go show IP route. Oh my goodness. There we go. Helps if I type the right thing there. And there I see my 3 networks. And actually, if I look at the top line, it actually says, hey, 172.16/19 is subnetted. It's got 3 subnets that it's being used. Yes. And here it is, 172.16.32, 172.16.64, 172.16.96. So here's the neat part. As I programmed this in, the router understood by my subnet mask and the IP addresses I was using exactly what my subnet scheme is. And it's one of those, because we figured it out the way routers understand it, when I can program in and configure these routers, the router completely understands what I'm doing and has it listed like that. It's like, hey, you've subnetted and you're doing this. Exactly. And I should see the 32 network connected to this port, 64 network connected to this port, and it says, hey, by the way, the 96 network is, I'm going to go out this port to this IP, and I will get there basically 2 away. And remember, that's a composite metric of hops and bandwidth. So a real low number in this case is indicating a real short distance away, which is good. So I'm going to copy that guy, and I'm going to save that. So I will copy. I'm going to open a text file. I will make plain text, and I want to paste that in, and I will end up saving this as, I think I tell you here, subnet routing table. Yeah, subnet routing table. So we'll call him subnet routing table. That way I know it's for this lab. Now, the only way you can get this full routing table with three subnets in is if everything you've done to this point is working correctly. That's the only way you could get that. And that's why that is really big proof for me that your subnetted network is up and working. All right. The other things we are going to gather are both router configs from the 2011 and 4321. That should be pretty easy by now, but I'll do mine real quick. I will do a show run here on this router. Space, space, space. Make sure you got it all. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to copy all that. Open a text file. I'll say File New. Format Plain Text. I'm going to paste that in, and I make sure I have it all. I want to see the OSPF config here, and I want to see your interfaces. Those are the things I really want to see. So we'll do File. We'll save, and we'll put this on the desktop as 2011 subnet config, maybe. I think that's what I'm having you call it. Yeah, the router model is subnet config. Thought that's what we were doing. .txt, there's that one. And then I'm going to grab the other router config. So I'll come over here, and I can enable. I can actually look at the routing table. We didn't look at that previously, so I'll look at it real quick now. And you'll see it says, hey, 172.16 is variably subnetted, 5 subnets, 2 masks. Okay, so what this is actually saying is, hey, 32, 64, and 96 are the subnets. And it's coming up with the 2 addresses, the 64.2 and the 96.1. That's where the 5 is coming from. Don't let that throw you. There's 3 networks that you're using, 32, 64, and 96, but it's also showing this 96.1 address and the 64.2 address. And you'll notice that the /32 in there is saying that is the whole, all 32 bits. If I'm looking at all 32 bits, that is the hosted, the port address. I'll get it out yet. That's the port address. Okay, but here's my 3 subnets, 32.0, 64.0, and 96.0. That's the big thing we're looking at. We're going to do a show run on this guy so we can see its config. We will scroll up a little bit, and we will copy this guy down. Copy. Come over here. I'll do a File New. Again, for me, I'm going to make plain text. Paste it in. Save. We want this guy to be 4321 subnet config. We'll save him to the desktop as well. So I have both router configs and I have my routing table. The only last thing is do save your packet tracer file. In case anything does not look right, I'll open your packet tracer file, take a look, see if I can see myself. So I will come up here and I will do a save file, save as, and I will give it a name. I think I told you to do like Brown Subnet Lab or something like that. So I will go Brown Subnet Lab, and I'll keep it nice and simple. I can get rid of all these extra notes out here. There we go, Brown Subnet Lab. And that is saved, and I can submit that. So at this point, you're going to gather your files, the subnet routing table, both router configs, the packet tracer file. You're going to submit them to D2L, and there's only 2 questions on this lab. Nice and simple. What is a subnet? That should be pretty easy to define right now. And the second one, what are subnets used for? All right. Why do we create these subnets? What are we doing this for? Why are we doing this? And your answer should not be to create more IP addresses, because that is not possible. We're taking a pool of addresses and breaking them into pieces. So I'm not creating more. I'm just taking a pie and cutting it up. So why are we doing this? Why do we go to the trouble of doing this? So those are your 2 questions to submit along with those files, and this lab is done.